Mr. Krabs might seem like a cheap, money-loving crab with a pirate laugh and a fast food empire, but there's more hiding under that shell. Behind the cash register and constant talk about profits is someone shaped by fear, pride, and the pain of his past. Mr. Krabs is fighting to hold on to what little he's built in a world that never gave him much to begin with. His story is about survival, control, and what happens when greed becomes a shield. So, polish your doubloons and let's dive into the story of Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs lives in a world where one thing matters more than anything else: money. He wakes up thinking about money. He sleeps dreaming about it. Everything in his life, his job, his choices, even his relationships, is built around the Krusty Krab and how much profit it makes. He's a man trapped inside his own obsession with saving and earning every last penny. In Le Big Switch, Mr. Krab swaps Spongebob for a high-end chef to save money and look more luxurious. But he completely misses the point. The Krusty Krab's value isn't in fancy plates and expensive silverware. It's in the passion of its workers. Without SpongeBob, the restaurant collapses. Mr. Krabs is forced to sell everything he owns, including his dignity. But even after hitting rock bottom, he doesn't reflect. He doesn't grow. He's just relieved when SpongeBob returns with a crowd of loyal customers. It's a temporary fix. The deeper problem, his obsession with money, remains untouched. In There Will Be Grease, we see how easily Mr. Krabs is seduced by a new source of profit. He and Plankton turn toxic grease into everything juice, a miracle product they sell to everyone. It's the same greed in a new form. At first, things go well. Mr. Krabs gets rich again, but the product starts causing harm, and the public turns on them. Instead of taking responsibility, Mr. Krabs blames Plankton. Again, the pattern repeats. Chase the money, ignore the consequences, and learn nothing. In Krabby Road, Mr. Krabs turns the Krusty Krab into a fortress, not because he's running a dangerous business, but because he's terrified of losing the Krabby Patty formula. That formula is everything to him. It proves he won. It proves he's smarter than Plankton. It proves that all of his obsession, all of his cutting corners and chasing pennies, actually led to something valuable. So, he guards it like it's his soul. He sets traps, questions everyone's loyalty, and refuses to let anyone get too close. What's shocking is how far he's willing to go. He joins a rock band, not for fun, not for music, but just to spy on Plankton, who's disguised himself as a band manager. Mr. Krabs humiliates himself without a second thought, because the fear of losing the formula is bigger than his pride. That's the core of his world. Constant fear disguised as confidence. He's surrounded by people who care about him, but he's too busy gripping a piece of paper to notice. And the worst part is, no one questions it. His paranoia, his greed, his isolation. It's all just business as usual. But if you look close, you see a man who's built his life on winning one fight and now doesn't know how to live without it. Mr. Krabs' greed traps him in a cycle where every mistake leads to more desperation. He sees relationships in terms of cost and benefit. He values loyalty only when it doesn't interfere with profit. He may care about SpongeBob, but only after business is secure. And yet, Mr. Krabs doesn't come off as a true villain. He's something more familiar, more uncomfortable. You get the sense that maybe, a long time ago, he was softer, maybe even idealistic. But over time, chasing profits became survival, and survival became habit. Now everything is measured in dollars. Even kindness has a price tag. He doesn't waste time on feelings unless they can be turned into business. It's not that he hates people. He just doesn't see much use in anything that can't be bought, sold, or locked in a safe. When he looks at others, he sees risk. When he looks at himself, he sees a brand to protect. That's why he clings so tightly to the formula, to his restaurant, to his routines. They're the only things he fully trusts. Somewhere along the way, the man and the money got tangled up. Whatever used to be underneath, the father, the friend, the dreamer, it's buried under ledgers and alarms. Maybe it's still in there, but even if it is, he's forgotten how to show it. Mr. Krabs built a life on fear and fortune, but when the world stops playing by his rules, even money can't save him. Mr. Krabs has lived most of his life by one belief: protect the formula, protect the money, and everything else will take care of itself. This idea has shaped how he sees the world. People are either threats, tools, or walking wallets. His routine is strict. His trust is thin, and his comfort zone is made of greed, control, and a cash register that sings. For a long time, it works. He keeps Plankton away. He keeps SpongeBob loyal. He keeps the Krusty Krab running. But eventually, something changes. In Plankton's army, the change starts with a strange sight. Dozens of Planktons walking into the Krusty Krab, all marching in sync. For years, Mr. Krab has fought the same enemy. Plankton the small, Plankton the pathetic, Plankton the loser who always fails. But now Plankton has backup. He's not alone, and he's not playing games. He brings in his entire family, a swarm of tiny but unified minds, all working together to get what he never could get on his own. For the first time, Mr. Krabs is being outmaneuvered. Mr. Krabs is used to holding holding all the power. He sets the rules. But when Plankton arrives with something new, cooperation, unity, a real strategy, Mr. Krabs doesn't have a clear answer. He tries brute force. He tries outsmarting. But it's not working. The rules of the game are changing, and that's where the fear sets in. It's not just about losing the formula anymore. It's about losing control. Then there's Lame and Fortune. At first, Mr. Krabs is laughing. A crate full of fortune cookies just falls into the Krusty Krab, and Spongebob starts handing them out. Harmless, right? Just a silly marketing trick. But then, the fortunes start coming true. One customer becomes rich. Another finds love. Suddenly, the Krusty Krab is full, and Mr. Krabs is hooked. He sees a new chance to make even more money, but Plankton sees something else. He replaces the fortunes with lies, telling customers that the Krusty Krab is cursed, dangerous, and that the Chum Bucket is the only safe place to eat. And it works. Customers run away in fear. They stop trusting the Krabby Patties. They stop trusting him. Mr. Krabs, for once, is facing an attack on his reputation. And for a man who built his identity on being the success story, this is far worse. The real danger is public doubt. Plankton spreads fear, and suddenly the Krusty Krab loses its place in people's minds. And Mr. Krabs is left chasing it, desperate, scared, and out of his depth. The world is changing around Mr. Krabs. The tools he relied on, cheap tricks, tight fists, endless suspicion, aren't working anymore. What's being asked of him is something much harder. He has to adapt. He has to step outside his own patterns. For years, he's believed that as long as he holds onto the formula, everything else will be fine. But now, the formula isn't enough. People don't just want food, they also want meaning, safety, trust, and Mr. Krabs has no idea how to give that, because he never learned how to value it. What makes this moment powerful is that it challenges his core belief system. He's not a man who likes risk, unless there's a guaranteed reward. He doesn't do things unless he sees a profit. But here, the reward is uncertain. The future is unknown. He's being asked to make choices that don't have dollar signs attached, to trust people he normally sees as liabilities. And yet, as shaken as he is, he doesn't walk away. He reacts, he panics, he scrambles, but he does act. In both episodes, Mr. Krabs takes the threat seriously. Even if his instincts are messy and flawed, he doesn't ignore what's happening. That tells us something important. Deep down, he knows this is bigger than a single battle. This is where the journey begins. The safe little world Mr. Krabs built for himself, a world where the only enemy was a tiny green pest and the only goal was more money, is breaking apart. The question now is not whether he'll fight, it's whether he'll change. Mr. Krabs finally sees his old ways are failing, but when change knocks, he slams the door and locks it. Stay tuned and subscribe. When the world starts to change around Mr. Krabs, his first instinct is to pull back. He clings to the things that make him feel safe. His money, his power, and the tight grip he keeps on both. Even when others around him try to help or point toward a better path, he resists. Change is terrifying to him, not because he doesn't understand it, but because it threatens the one thing he values above all: control. This resistance is shown clearly in The Lost Mattress. When SpongeBob and Squidward see that Mr. Krabs is suffering from back pain, they buy him a brand new mattress out of kindness. They don't ask, they just help. But Mr. Krabs doesn't react with gratitude. He panics. The old mattress, it turns out, was hiding all of his money, and instead of calmly explaining that, he lashes out. He accuses them of robbing him and spirals into grief. Even though he's in pain every night, he refuses to accept the new mattress or the gesture behind it. What mattered more to him was that no one touched his safe zone without permission. His pride and paranoia matter more than his well-being. SpongeBob eventually recovers the money, but Mr. Krab never thanks him. He learns nothing from the experience. The discomfort was real, but he'd rather live with it than give up control. A similar moment happens in Born Again Krabs, where Mr. Krabs nearly dies after eating a spoiled patty. For a moment, something breaks open in him. He returns from his brush with death, promising to be a better person. He gives away free food. He treats SpongeBob with kindness. For once, he seems to understand that life isn't all about money. But that clarity doesn't last. The minute he feels safe again, the fear disappears. And so does the change. He reverts. He kisses his cash register, reclaims his greed, and acts as if nothing happened. It's not that the moment didn't matter. It did. He's just chose not to carry it forward. The idea of truly changing, of living differently, is too much. He comes back into the one identity he knows, the greedy boss. Then, in selling out, Mr. Krabs does what he's always talked about. He sells the Krusty Krab for massive profit and retires. He finally gets what he thinks he wants: peace, comfort, and money in the bank. But very quickly, he starts to realize that retirement makes him feel useless. He's restless, aimless, and when he sees that the new corporate owners are running the Krusty Krab smoothly without him, he can't take it. The restaurant is cleaner and more profitable, but none of that matters to him. He doesn't feel needed. He doesn't feel like himself. So he storms back, forcing himself into a job he already gave up, just to feel in control again. It's not about the money anymore. Without the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs doesn't know who he is, and that truth scares him more than anything. Across these episodes, Mr. Krabs keeps getting chances to change, but he never takes rejects them. People try to help him. Life pushes him in new directions, and every time he backs away. He sticks to what he knows, his money, his rules, his routines. He won't say it out loud, but it shows. When someone offers something better, he finds a reason to reject it. When life gives him a second chance, he throws it away, only because he doesn't want to let go. He doesn't scream or fight it. He just slides back into his old ways. That's what makes it worse. It looks quiet on the outside, but inside, he's stuck. He tells himself he's being smart, being careful, but really he's scared. Scared that if he stops chasing money, if he steps away from the Krusty Krab, there won't be anything left. That without all of it, maybe he's nothing. So he holds on, even if it hurts him, even if it keeps him small. Mr. Krabs keeps rejecting the change out of fear. But what if the real reason isn't in letting go, but in who never lets go of him? Mr. Krabs doesn't take advice. He barely listens to reason. He built his world on instinct, survival, and an obsession with never being broke again. So when things start falling apart, when his plans fail, his money disappears, or his pride takes a hit, he doesn't turn to books, experts, or speeches. But there is someone who sticks around through all of it. Someone he doesn't always respect, but quietly depends on more than he'll ever admit. Spongebob. Spongebob isn't there to teach him or correct. He doesn't challenge Mr. Krabs with words. He does it simply by being who he is. In Hot Cross Nuts, Mr. Krabs throws himself into a new business plan, putting Sandy in charge of a popular new menu item that ends up outshining the Krabby Patty. The restaurant explodes with success, and SpongeBob is left behind, forgotten in his own kitchen. He doesn't complain. He doesn't fight for credit. He just quietly leaves. Mr. Krabs finds him outside roasting a single patty over a trash fire. Humble, lonely, and completely out of place. That image rattles something in him. Not because SpongeBob said anything, but because he didn't. For someone so loud, SpongeBob's silence speaks volumes. It's not a guilt trip. It's a reminder. All the money in the world doesn't matter if you lose the people who care about the work. There's a similar moment in Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy. Mr. Krabs, thinking he's one step ahead of Plankton, leaves the Krabby Patty formula exposed. What saves the day is SpongeBob, patiently walking the imposter through the art of making a patty, step by step, not because he suspects anything, but because that's just how he is. Detailed, generous, proud of what he knows. Watching that unfold, you can see it. Mr. Krabs knows who really holds the place together. Not the formula, not the branding. It's the weird little sponge who never phones it in, who gives 100% even when no one's looking. That kind of loyalty can't be bought, and Krabs knows it. In The Googly Artiste, Patrick becomes an accidental art celebrity after putting googly eyes on patties, and Mr. Krabs, of course, sees dollar signs. He pushes the trend, turning Squidward into a personal assistant and hijacking the kitchen. But things spin out of control. SpongeBob and Patrick never fight for credit or power. They just go along, helping where they can. When Mr. Krabs sees customers lining up and Patrick reaping all the money, he doesn't explode. He panics. Not because he's left out of the cash flow, but because once again, things move forward without him. And the ones keeping everything running? The same people he barely sees as more than tools on a payroll. This is how change enters Mr. Krabs' life. Not through big speeches or lessons, but through quiet, repeated contrast. SpongeBob doesn't lecture him. He doesn't try to change him. But he is the example Mr. Krabs can't escape. Always working, always kind, always showing up. And as much as Mr. Krabs pretends not to notice, he does. He sees it every time SpongeBob forgives his mistakes. Every time he puts care into a simple task. Every time he chooses people over profit. SpongeBob never demands growth from Mr. Krabs, but his presence makes it harder for Krabs to stay the same. In every disaster, every scam gone wrong, every failed shortcut, it's SpongeBob who's still there. Not for the paycheck, not out of fear, but out of something Mr. Krabs doesn't quite understand. Belief. And slowly, whether he likes it or not, that belief starts to get under his shell. It doesn't fix him overnight, but it keeps him from giving up, from completely losing himself. Sometimes, the most powerful influence is the one standing behind you when everything else falls apart. SpongeBob's quiet loyalty slowly makes Mr. Krabs question his old ways, but soon, the world pushes him into situations where money and control are no longer enough. But in a few key moments, these walls don't hold. He gets pushed, sometimes willingly, sometimes not, into situations where his usual tricks can't help him. These are the moments when he crosses the line between the safe world he built and something unfamiliar, something he can't fully control or undo. Take Krabs a la mode. When the Krusty Krab turns into a frozen wasteland thanks to Plankton's sabotage, Mr. Krabs reacts the way he always does. Panic, blame others, refuse to spend money. But the cold doesn't care. It spreads. Business dries up, and suddenly he's in real danger of shutting down. For a man who never changes unless forced, what happens next is rare. He adapts. He turns the frozen Krusty Krab into an an ice-themed restaurant, going along with SpongeBob's creative ideas of turning crisis into something new. It's the first time in a while we see him working with change instead of against it. He doesn't love it, but he goes through with it. The fear of loss pulls him across the threshold, and though he tries to act like he's still in control, it's clear he's no longer in familiar waters. In R, the change is more emotional. Mr. Krab starts with a lie, tricking SpongeBob and Patrick into a fake treasure hunt for his own amusement. But when the fake map turns out to be real, something clicks. He stops playing and starts obsessing. He ditches logic and loses patience, chasing a fantasy of riches buried in the sand. And in doing so, he drags himself into a version of reality he's not ready for. He becomes aggressive, unstable, and blind to anything but gold. His usual identity, smart, tough, greedy, but in control, falls apart. By the time he finds the treasure chest, he's sweaty, desperate, and alone. There's no reward inside, just a broken idea of who he thought he was. What makes this episode powerful is that we see him become someone who would risk everything for a myth and get nothing back. Then there's Shell of a Man. Mr. Krabs gets invited to his Navy reunion, but feels embarrassed by how soft and civilian he's become. He forces SpongeBob to pretend to be him so he won't have to face it, but the longer he hides, the more uncomfortable he becomes. He finally shows up at the reunion, not in a uniform, but in a bathrobe, literally stripped of his image. He expects ridicule. What he gets is the opposite. His old friends laugh, welcome him, and don't care about the tough guy act. They care about him. That moment, though awkward, is honest. For once, Mr. Krabs walks into a space without money, armor, or status, just himself. It's a small step, but a real one. These moments matter because they strip away what Mr. Krabs depends on. He steps into a place where being clever, greedy, or loud doesn't save him. Sometimes he adapts, sometimes he breaks down, but he can't unsee what happens there. It's not a clean shift. He doesn't transform overnight, but something is different. The Krusty Krab still exists. The formula is still locked away, but a crack has formed, and the man behind the shell has seen what happens when that shell doesn't work. In each of these episodes, Mr. Krabs leaves his safety zone, whether it's a physical space like the Krusty Krab or an emotional space like pride, and enters something that forces him to feel vulnerable. That's the point of no return. Even if he pretends like nothing changed afterward, the audience sees the truth. For a moment, he wasn't the boss. He was just a person trying to survive a world that didn't follow his rules. When Mr. Krabs steps outside his comfort zone, he starts to lose the tools that once made him powerful. But the real test comes when he has to face what happens after the fall. As always, hit the subscribe button for more videos like these. After Mr. Krabs crosses into unfamiliar territory, where money doesn't fix everything and control slips out of reach, he finds himself stumbling through a series of situations where the rules are different. The challenges he faces aren't loud battles. They're slow, quiet shifts in power, trust, and relevance. He's tested not just by problems, but by people, and what they do when he's no longer in control. In SpongeBob's place, the usual rhythm of the Krusty Krab breaks when SpongeBob, worn down by Mr. Krabs' constant pushing, decides to cook from home. He just wants a little peace, but the second SpongeBob steps away, something strange happens. The customers follow him. They leave the Krusty Krab because it no longer feels special, and Mr. Krabs, instead of listening, tries to fight it. He copies SpongeBob's voice, wears his uniform, and tries to fake the same magic. He even surrounds SpongeBob's house with molten lava to keep people from leaving. None of it works. And that's what hurts him most. Not just the money, though he hates losing that too, but the realization that the one thing that he thought was fully his restaurant, doesn't actually work without someone else's heart behind it. In the end, he doesn't apologize, but he does something just as surprising. He changes the name of the restaurant to include SpongeBob's, because even he can't deny who makes the place what it is. That small act says more than any speech. He's beginning to let go of the belief that he alone is the reason things succeed. In the Krabby Chronicle, Mr. Krabs turns a failing newspaper into his next big scheme. He puts SpongeBob in charge of writing, but quickly pushes him toward making up wild stories, because fake drama sells. SpongeBob is uncomfortable, but eager to please. The stories get worse. People get hurt, but Krabs only sees the growing stack of coins, until SpongeBob finally writes about him, printing out the kind of harsh, made-up headlines Mr. Krabs encouraged from the start. Now the town turns on him. Customers riot. Chaos breaks out, and Krabs, who built his entire empire on a tight grip and clean public image, is left sobbing on the floor. The damage finally came home. It's the first time he sees what it's like to lose everything he values: reputation, control, and trust, by his own hand. And yet, even here, he can't fully admit fault. He doesn't grow wiser. He just breaks a little more. The cracks get deeper. Then there's the Goob Father. This time, Mr. Krabs starts off strong. He creates a new treat, Patty Whips, that become a huge success. But a rival steps in, by simply doing it better. The goofy goober business begins drawing people away with smiles, fun, and kindness, things Krabs rarely considers part of running a restaurant. He sees this not as a sign to improve, but as a personal attack. He responds by going full war mode. He hires fake bodyguards, turns the Krusty Krab into a fortress, escalates everything until he's completely unrecognizable. But the truth is simple, he lost, because someone else gave people what he wouldn't. And when it's over, all he has left is the wreckage of what he built. The Krusty Krab doesn't grow stronger from the fight, it gets smaller, quieter. And Mr. Krabs, worn out and exposed, starts to realize that winning isn't always about protecting what's yours. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let things change. And then there's one Krabs trash. A small story, but a deep one. Mr. Krabs sells an old soda drinking hat to Spongebob, then finds out it's worth a fortune. He wants it back, but instead of just offering more money, he lies. He fakes a ghost story, scares SpongeBob, and sends him on a fake quest to bury the cursed item. When that doesn't work, he digs up a grave, literally, just to prove a point. It backfires horribly. He's chased by skeletons, humiliated, and left empty-handed. He sees, for a brief moment, how low he's willing to go, just to feel like he's still in control. And once again, the cost becomes his own dignity. Each of these episodes strips something away from him. The trust of a loyal employee, the loyalty of his customers, the belief that success always means being the one in charge. He loses small battles, yes, but the real struggle is internal. Piece by piece, the world is showing him that his way, the tight grip, the shortcuts, the obsession with winning, doesn't work anymore. And worse, it's hurting the people around him. The ones who never asked for more money, just more respect. The ones who stayed even when he didn't deserve it. And what does Mr. Krab do at the end of all this? He doesn't have a big moment of truth. He doesn't break down in front of SpongeBob and beg for forgiveness. That's not who he is. But he does change. Quietly, awkwardly, and only a little. He adds someone else's name to the building. He stands in silence when the crown turns on him. He lowers his voice when he sees that loyalty, not greed, saved him again. He doesn't become a better man overnight, but he becomes a little more honest, even if only with himself. Losing control didn't break Mr. Krabs, but what came after, the quiet moments when no one was watching, started to show him who he really is. There are moments when Mr. Krabs stands just outside something he doesn't want to face, an uncomfortable truth, a part of himself he's tried to ignore, or a world that no longer plays by his rules. They're quiet steps towards something more personal, moments when pride cracks, when fear creeps in, and when the next choice feels heavier than the last. In Frozen Face-Off, Bikini Bottom is caught up in a race through snow and danger for $1 million prize. Mr. Krabs joins, because he can't resist the thought of easy riches. What starts as fun becomes bitter. He gets stuck, frozen in place, buried under the thing he chased. At one point, he ends up locked in a cave, cold, alone, and faced with the one thing he hates most, being helpless. It's not a joke anymore. He digs through the ice with his claws, grumbling, panicking. Not out of physical fear, but fear of being forgotten. The money feels far away now. The crowd is gone. In that frozen dark, all he has is himself. And it's not enough. In Big League Bob, a restaurant manager offers Mr. Krabs more money than he's ever seen to let SpongeBob leave and become a star chef. The moment is simple. A handshake, a signature, and the deal is done. SpongeBob is excited but unsure. He looks to Krabs for guidance, and Krabs, blinded by greed, lets him go. SpongeBob's talent is taken away from its home, put under pressure, and nearly ruined. Mr. Krabs realizes it too late. Without SpongeBob, the restaurant isn't alive. He travels to the stadium to help him, bringing patties as a quiet apology. He doesn't say much, but in that moment, he's no longer chasing the money. He's trying to hold on to something real, something human. He failed to see it before. Now he has to fight to get it back. And then there's Penny Foolish, a story that seems small, a single coin, but says more about Krabs than any epic battle. When he thinks SpongeBob found a penny, something snaps. He obsesses over it. He sees pennies in the sky, in car radios, he loses sleep, and even puts on a charity play begging for change. All for something SpongeBob insists he never had. The spiral gets worse. Mr. Krabs builds a theater, breaks into SpongeBob's house, loses track of time, of logic, of himself. And for what? At the very end, SpongeBob reveals it wasn't a penny. It was a piece of gum. Mr. Krabs falls silent. His obsession had no foundation. His paranoia, his schemes, his growing madness, it was all self-made. He spent all that energy trying to control something that was never real to begin with. These are the steps. Each one peels something away. The big paycheck, the public praise, the false certainty. Piece by piece, the thing he used used to define himself stop working, and what's left is fear of being irrelevant, of losing the people he quietly depends on, of being seen not as a boss or a legend, but just a man. What makes these episodes different is the silence that follows them. He doesn't come out stronger. He doesn't shout, "I've changed!" He just looks around, slower than before, maybe even ashamed. He's not in a battle anymore. He's in the waiting room before the real moment, the one where he has to choose what kind of person he wants to be and what he's willing to lose to stay the same. Mr. Krab stands at the edge of something he can't explain, a feeling more than a moment. Everything he's built feels like it could fall apart, and the only way through it is to let go of the past he's been clinging to so tightly. He survived the silence of doubt and the string of small regrets, but it's only when the systems he built turn against him that everything starts to fall apart. Sometimes the things that always worked just stop working. The voice that once ran the room doesn't land the same. The habits that used to feel smart start to feel tired, and the things you thought make you strong suddenly don't feel like enough. Mr. Krabs has spent his life running the same play. Chase the money, keep control, never look back. But there comes a point when even he can't ignore the cracks forming. Not around him, but inside. In My Two Krabses, his control starts to split in the most literal way possible. After Spongebob helps him build a mechanical suit meant to maximize his efficiency, earn more, rest less, Mr. Krabs gets a taste of what it means to be everywhere at once. At first, it's a dream. He's in two places, doing twice the work, bringing in double the money. But the machine quickly goes rogue. It starts copying his mindset. Greed, shortcuts, commands. The robot starts giving orders, even to Krabs himself, and he listens. It's strange watching him take instructions from a voice that's technically his own, but louder, colder, more extreme. The robot doesn't care about SpongeBob, doesn't understand limits, and doesn't stop when things go too far. It treats people like parts of a business, not people. And Mr. Krabs, exhausted and unsure, begins to fade into the background of his own operation. The moment it all turns quiet, when the machine locks him out, when his own system replaces him, he's no longer needed, not even by his own design. He tries to fight it, but he's lost track of where the real Krabs ends and the performance begins. The business ran better without him, more focused, more efficient, but less human. Then there's Money Talks, an episode that starts as a fantasy, but turns into something darker. Mr. Krabs wishes that money could talk to him, and for a short time, it does. The stacks of bills and piles of coins whisper promises, suggestions, temptations. They feed his ego, praise his instincts. They make him feel special. At first, it's thrilling. He finally hears what he always wanted to believe, that his obsession is genius. But as the episode continues, the praise turns into pressure. The money doesn't want care or appreciation. It wants action. It urges him to hoard more, take faster, give nothing. It makes him ignore others, abandon kindness, treat every person around him like a missed opportunity. And the more he listens, the more alone he becomes. The voices grow louder, but everyone else grows quieter. SpongeBob looks confused. Customers walk out. He's surrounded by wealth, but starved of connection. By the end, Mr. Krabs gets what he thought he wanted, and it's miserable. The money doesn't comfort him. It demands more. It never thanks him. It never stops. When the voices finally fade and the world returns to normal, he doesn't celebrate. He just stands there, tired, a little embarrassed, maybe even scared. For a brief moment, he saw what it looked like to be consumed entirely by the thing he built his life around. Mr. Krabs doesn't say much when it ends. He rarely does. The noise has faded, the distractions are gone, and what's left is weight. The restaurant looks the same, but the air feels different. The people he once counted on are still nearby, but there's a distance now. And though he wouldn't admit it out loud, something in him has changed. A line was crossed, and he can feel it, even if he doesn't know what comes next. His obsession with control and wealth pushes him to the edge, where he loses sight of what truly matters. But even in the middle of his mistakes, small moments of change begin to show him that there might be more to life than the treasures he's chased. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't miss our future videos on your favorite cartoon characters. Some rewards aren't gold or glory. They're quieter, harder to recognize. A second chance, a conversation not ruined, or a moment where someone looks at you with trust instead of disappointment. For someone like Mr. Krabs, who spent so long chasing the wrong treasures, these small wins can feel like the biggest ones, even if he doesn't always know what to do with them. In Whale of a Birthday, Mr. Krabs is given something rare, an opportunity to get it right with his daughter. Pearl's birthday is coming up, and for once, she asks for what she wants. A big, flashy mall party with all the extras. Mr. Krabs hears her, nods, smiles, then completely ignores her wishes. He throws a budget party at the Krusty Krab instead, complete with cheap decorations and reused leftovers. The gift is a novelty spatula. Pearl is crushed, humiliated in front of her friends, and leaves the party in tears. And for a while, Mr. Krabs just stares, like maybe Maybe, for once, the silence gets through, but then he does something different. He runs after her, not to defend himself, but to fix it. He empties his wallet, rents out the mall, and gives her the party she asked for in the first place. It's not a smooth recovery. There's no heartfelt speech, no moment where he admits he was wrong, but he shows up. And for a man who usually needs to be dragged towards generosity, that's not nothing. In that decision, he gives up the one thing he never parts with, his money, just for family. That's the win. Choosing things that matter over money. Then there's Friend or Foe, a flashback-heavy episode that tells the story of Mr. Krabs and Plankton's shared past. As teenagers, they were business partners, bright-eyed, ambitious, and full of plans. They tried running a restaurant together, mixing their talents, Plankton's brains and Krabs' gut instinct. It worked for a moment, then it didn't. A betrayal followed. A lifelong rivalry began, and the two became bitter enemies, each blaming the other for what went wrong. But underneath the fighting, there's something else: regret. Throughout the episode, Krabs reflects, not loudly, but enough to notice. There's a part of him that misses what they had, that remembers what it's like to build something side by side. And then the truth finally comes out, that they both made mistakes, that neither one really won. There's a crack in the wall. They don't make peace, but there's a pause, a shared glance, a little less anger in the room. And sometimes that's all people like them can manage. For Mr. Krabs, who's built a life around holding grudges and guarding secrets, that tiny moment of honesty is more valuable than any locked up recipe. In New Digs, Spongebob moves out of the pineapple and into the Krusty Krab. It's meant to be temporary, but quickly things get messy. Spongebob reorganizes the kitchen, turns the dining room into his personal living space, and works 24/7. At first, Mr. Krabs is thrilled, but over time, things start turning for the worst. SpongeBob stops clocking out, stops relaxing. He burns out in real time. Still smiling, still working, but something off in his eyes. He's always there, always giving, and Mr. Krabs starts to notice. It's subtle. He doesn't say anything, doesn't change his ways immediately. But one night after watching SpongeBob fall asleep mid-task, Mr. Krabs gives him a key and tells him to go home. A quiet gesture from someone who finally saw the damage of taking too much from someone who never knew how to say no. One that happens in a singular sentence, but it matters, because it shows that Mr. Krabs, for once, wasn't thinking about profit. He was thinking about a person. Mr. Krabs doesn't always see them for what they are, but the audience does. We see a man who, despite everything, still has people around him, still has chances to do better. And in these rare moments, he does. Not because someone forced him, but because something in him, some small part that's still learning, chose to. That's what becomes his reward. And in Mr. Krabs' world, they're everything he didn't know he needed. Even as Mr. Krabs takes small steps towards change, the old habits still pull at him. And though he may start to recognize their cost, the pressure of his past instincts soon forces him back to familiar ground, testing whether he can truly break free. After everything, the breakdowns, the strange lessons, the small steps forward, Mr. Krabs finds himself back at the Krusty Krab. But something feels a little off. He's been through enough now to start seeing the changes in his own thinking. The people around him and the rules he lived by don't hold like they used to. And yet, even with all of that, when the pressure comes back, so do the old instincts. In the Krabby Patty that ate Bikini Bottom, it all starts with a shortcut. Mr. Krabs finds out about Sandy's growth serum, meant to make plants bigger, and immediately sees one thing: profit. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't think it through. He dumps the entire bottle on a Krabby Patty, eager to sell a giant version of the thing that made him rich. But the patty keeps growing. First, it outgrows the kitchen, then the restaurant, then the city. At each step, Krabs insists that they stay the course, that this is just a bump, just part of the plan, even as the building shakes and people run. When it finally swallows the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs makes his last stand for the cash register. He jumps into the chaos to save it, and for that, the patty swallows him too. It's only later, after the damage is done, that SpongeBob saves the day. With a simple act, absorbing the mess, cleaning it up, putting the world back together. Mr. Krabs doesn't say thank you. He doesn't apologize. But when he climbs out, covered in grease and silence, something is different in his eyes. The restaurant can be rebuilt, the cash register can be replaced, but his grip on control, on being right all the time, comes back weaker. And yet, the world keeps testing him. In Growth Spout, the challenge is closer to home. Pearl is going through a growth spurt, and she's constantly hungry. Krabs, ever the penny pincher, tries to feed her without touching the restaurant's inventory. He steals from everyone: Squidward, SpongeBob, even strangers. He gives away his gold tooth. It's played for laughs, but underneath, it's messy and sad. He's not just being cheap. He's scared. Scared of running out. Scared of giving too much. Scared that even love will bankrupt him. When none of it works, it's Spongebob, not Krabs, who suggests bringing Pearl to the Krusty Krab. And it works. Pearl is full. The crisis ends. Krabs, still out of breath, asks what the secret ingredient was. Spongebob tells him, love. Krabs laughs at first, then stops. He returns to the same place, but something feels different now. The old urges still show up. Cut corners, keep everything close, stay ahead of everyone else. That voice hasn't disappeared, but lately, there are moments where he pauses, when he doesn't follow it right away. He still wants to win, but maybe not at any cost, not every time. And that quiet shift, barely visible to anyone else, starts to shape the way he moves through the world he once ruled without question. He still wants the win, he still fears the loss, but now he pauses. Now he thinks, and sometimes he lets go. Mr. Krabs doesn't come back from the fire as a new man. The things he used to cling to don't feel as sure now, and through them, something new is seeping in. A tiny voice that whispers, maybe there's more to all this than just the money. Though Mr. Krabs begins to question his old ways and make small changes, the pressure of his habits still drag him back into his controlling nature, until an unexpected series of events forces him to face the limits of his power and control. It always comes back to the same place, the Krusty Krab. The idea that as long as he stays in control, nothing can break him. But sometimes, control isn't enough. Sometimes, things fall apart so completely that the only way out is through. And Mr. Krabs, for all his flaws, finds himself in those moments with fewer answers than he expected. In SpongeBob You're Fired, it starts cold. Krabs cuts SpongeBob's job to save a nickel. It's harsh, even by his standards. SpongeBob begs to stay, offers to work for free. Krabs says no, because of legal issues. He walks away as SpongeBob floods the restaurant with tears. Alone, Krabs thinks he's won. But without SpongeBob, the place falls apart. Krabs tries to cook himself. Everything feels wrong. He doesn't say it, but he misses the sponge. Misses what he brought. Not just the labor, but the life. The moment he realizes it's quiet, undramatic, he just watches the kitchen fall apart and feels something sink. Later, when SpongeBob finally returns, not for money, but out of loyalty, Krabs doesn't thank him. But he doesn't fire him again either. Sometimes, keeping someone close is as close as Krabs gets to saying he was wrong. And then, there's the Curse of the Hex. A mysterious woman, Madam Hagfish, curses the Krusty Krab after Krabs refuses to give her a meal without payment. Everything falls apart, the whole place collapsing in slow motion. The customers leave. SpongeBob begs him to reconsider. Just give her a meal, he says. Just this once. Krabs refuses, holds the line, until the building starts to literally rot from the inside. Only then does he walk outside. Only then does he offer her a bowl of food for free. It was just an old man, standing in the rain, giving up a plate he swore he wouldn't give for free. And when he does, the curse lifts. The Krusty Krab survives. But something else changes too. Krabs doesn't smile, doesn't gloat, just watches the woman walk away and stays quiet. It's not a big moment. He just lets go of something he never thought he would. Not because he has to, but because this time, something else feels more important. The place, the people. Maybe even a part of himself he forgot was still there. They're clumsy, small, a little late wins. Mr. Krabs doesn't become a new man, but he doesn't walk away the same either. For someone who spent his life avoiding softness, even one honest moment means something. He's just stayed still, took the hit, and chose differently. And sometimes, that's enough. Mr. Krabs starts letting go, but change still feels hard. And sometimes, it's too late to fix things. Coming back looks like any other day. The tables are in the same place, the grill still sizzles, the usual voices fill the room. Mr. Krabs is back behind the counter like nothing's changed, but the way he moves is different. He still keeps an eye on the register, still notices every coin, but there's a little more quiet in how he holds it. Decisions don't come as fast, and once in a while, they come from something other than habit. In My Father the Boat, it starts like a familiar cycle. Pearl wants something big for her birthday, a fancy new boat. Mr. Krabs makes a promise without thinking, then panics when he realizes the cost. So, he cuts corners, builds her a fake version using scrap parts. It looks good, but it doesn't work. And instead of being honest, he hides inside it, pretending everything is fine. Old habits dressed in a new disguise. But when the truth comes out, after Pearl drives into a demolition derby and the whole boat is exposed, Krabs doesn't yell. He apologizes for lying, for trying to fake something instead of trusting her with the truth. Pearl is angry and she doesn't let him off easy, but she listens, and that's the change. Mr. Krabs doesn't chase her with excuses, he lets her have her moment. For a man who's spent his life proving he's in control, this is something new, letting someone else feel what they need to feel, even if it means sitting with his own guilt. Later, she buys herself 2 boats using his credit card, and Krabs doesn't even scream. Then, in A Place for Pets, Mr. Krabs faces another test, this time from his own success. When a wealthy customer offers to pay double for her her pet to eat the Krusty Krab, he changes the rules. Pets are now allowed. Business starts to boom. Customers dress up like animals to get in. Money starts flowing. But quickly, the place becomes chaos. Fights, mess, overcrowding. Still, Krabs doesn't stop. Not until Spongebob steps in and gently sorts out the mess. In the end, the health inspector, a key part of the scam, admits it was all performance. The lesson lands awkwardly. People and pets eat together. The restaurant feels full with something closer to warmth. And Krabs, buried under complaints, regulations, and exhaustions, doesn't snap. He listens. He doesn't fix everything, but he lets the moment happen. That's all it takes. These aren't big victories. They won't change Bikini Bottom, but they leave small marks. The people around him, Pearl, Spongebob, even the customers, notice a difference. He doesn't shout as much. He hesitates before tricking someone. He still loves money, still slips up, still dreams about gold. But now, there's more space between the thought and the action. And that space is where the real change lives. What Mr. Krabs learns is the ability to pause, to think before hurting someone, to remember that survival doesn't always mean shutting others out, that sometimes giving, even if it's messy, awkward, or late, is more powerful than taking. It doesn't make him perfect, but it makes him human, and that's enough for now. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.